Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's Grace Presents webinar series. Today, we will be talking about the power of pets and how pets bring purpose and happiness in later life. My name is Jordan Qualley. I'm our integrated marketing manager here at Grace and also a fellow pet lover, as I hope many of you are as well. And for those of you who are not familiar with Grace Management, we are a senior living owner and operator with more than 40 years of experience operating in 60 communities, over 60 communities across the country, with living options that include active adult living, independent living, assisted living, and memory care. Today, we're joined by two wonderful guests, Dr. Olson, board certified veterinary neurologist, chief medical officer, and co-founder of Cove Animal Health. He'll help us better understand the human animal health or human animal bonds and the role pets play in daily life, purpose, connection, and well-being. We're also joined by Tracy Melton, our sales director at the lovely Inspirations of Mesa community in Mesa, Arizona. She'll help us connect this conversation from a senior living community perspective. Before we get started, we encourage you to use the Q&A feature throughout today's webinar. We would love to answer any questions that you have throughout. And we're also going to start with a few quick polls to get a better sense of who's joining us today.
So the first polls, we want to know exactly who is joining us. So are you attending as someone that has an aging parent, is a caregiver to your spouse or loved one, or do you work with older adults, or maybe it's something else? If you could take a few minutes and just answer the poll, that'd be so appreciated. The answers are starting to come in. It looks like the majority of those joining us today work with older adults.
That's awesome. We love to get an idea who's joining us. Next, we have a bit more of a fun poll built in. We would love to know if there's any pet lovers or owners out there. So we'd love you to share that. Personally, I have a 16-year-old cat named Ellie. Oh, and Ben's sharing his cat with us as well.
And Sophie.
I have a dog, 8-year-old dog, a Wheaten Terrier.
I
I
love
love
seeing
Wheatons.
all the answers to this poll come in. We have some dog owners, some cat owners, some that are other. If you are other, we would love to hear what kind of animal you have at home. If you want to use the Q&A feature to let us know, that'd be amazing. And then we have a few people that have no pet, but they're just an animal lover, so they wanted to join us today.
We are so thankful you're here joining us today. We love all animal lovers as well as non-animal lovers. Do you have any results on how many dog or cat owners we have today, Haley? Oh, you're muted, Haley.
The majority of the people joining us today are dog and cat owners, yes.
Awesome. Did we have anyone chime in about what their other animals are?
Not yet.
Awesome. Well, with that, we are honored to formally introduce Dr. Olson. Thank you again for joining us today. I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. I'm really excited to be here. So I'm Dr. Ben Olson. I'm the Chief Medical Officer and co-founder of Cove Animal Health. We are a multi-hospital network, primarily focused in the Northeast, but also in Ohio and Pennsylvania. And we really focus on creating hospital networks that champion doctor-led hospitals and operations. I'm also a board certified neurologist, neurosurgeon. I did my training at Purdue University and then the Animal Medical Center in New York City. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So when we think about the human-animal bond and specifically the relationship between a pet parent and the pet, it really is a factor in the majority of Americans' lives. And so many people have pets, and we've seen that this bond has physical, mental, and emotional effects. And we've been studying the relationship between people and animals seriously for decades now. And the research really keeps showing us that the bond does real work in people's lives, especially as they age. And so today I'll walk you through some of what the science says and where it's strong, also where it's sometimes more nuanced, and how small changes can have big effects and big benefits within communities. And so when we talk about the human-animal bond, we're really talking about something that runs in both directions and has effects emotionally, psychologically, and even physically. There's been a shift, I would say, over the past 20 to 30 years in how we think about pets in this bond. Pets are not property anymore, they're family. And the research actually shows that people will attribute personalities, values, and emotional needs to their animals. It creates a sense of closeness that has real measurable effects. And as any pet owner knows, pets offer a kind of social support that's uniquely unconditional. Anyone with a pet obviously knows that. There's no judgment. They're always present for us. There's unconditional love. And we see that with older adults specifically, that this bond tends to deepen over time, especially during the harder seasons of life. And it's unique that it can extend to spouses as well. There's research that looked at spouses of people with dementia, and as the dementia progressed, the spouse's attachment to their pet actually got stronger. And so the pet almost becomes an anchor when everything else feels uncertain.
Jordan, do you mind if I chime in real quick on something about that?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So something I wanted to piggyback off of that Dr. Osen was just saying is I've had a family member that moved in before, and she had just recently lost her husband. And she talked about how that dog, Bella, gave her purpose to keep moving forward and to be able to get up and keep her routine, and what a huge impact it had for her. So definitely something, something you were just talking about that we've seen firsthand here at the community.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes perfect sense. I think those relationships are very strong. And when we look at the evidence, it's a lot broader than most people think. Pets contribute to well-being in many ways. So we'll go through a couple of them now. So cardiovascular health is actually one of the most studied, but it's been shown in multiple studies that pet ownership and that relationship has direct effects on blood pressure, resting heart rate, having a faster recovery from stressful events. And so these are not soft findings. And the American Heart Association has issued multiple statements and has a lot of resources on their website with the direct links to cardiovascular health and pet ownership. Next, as anybody knows, having a dog, there's a lot of physical activity that can come along with it. Dog owners walk more and sit less, maintaining a higher level of activity than people without dogs. And we're always learning about how damaging prolonged sitting is over time. And so having a dog has a direct measurable link to staying active and health.
And Dr. Olson, to your point about the physical activity and the cardiovascular health, one thing that my mother-in-law does is every single day, snow, rain, shine, whatever it might be, she goes on a run with her dog. And she's like, if I miss a day, I'll give myself an excuse on other days not to go. So she makes sure every day she's out there running with her dog.
Yeah, and I think it's a mix. It's almost like an accountability partner.
Hmm.
They
Mm.
that sense of obligation is really good to make sure that you go on that run or get outside and are active consistently.
Absolutely.
I think from a community perspective, sometimes we see residents that don't normally come out, they don't go to the dining room, but when you see them out and about with their animals, it's usually a dog, um, and they're right there attached to their side. So we know that that resident's doing okay. And then the interaction that they have with another resident, because somebody that doesn't have a dog and they see that dog, you just can't help but smile when you watch that interaction.
Yeah, I think they facilitate as a social lubricant sometimes, which is great. And I think it just, adds a lot of satisfaction to life, when it can be quite lonely sometimes. And next, in addition, or speaking of loneliness, The mental health benefits have been well studied as well. So pet owners do report lower levels of loneliness and higher life satisfaction. And it can be a buffer against things like depression, which, we worry about, especially for people living alone. Um,
Absolutely.
when we think of aging, we also think of life transitions and things like retirement and then moving as well. And pet ownership has shown to buffer that as well. And we see smaller drops in satisfaction for people going through these changes. And we think that's because the animals give a consistency and stability through the changes that people may be going through. And like you mentioned before, I think a lot of that goes to the routine and purpose. And so feeding, grooming, walking, these tasks create a lot of structure and a reason to get up. And being needed for a living being is not a small deal. It's a big responsibility. And later in life, especially, that can lead to increased satisfaction and purpose.
And I think just the additional love and companionship that they receive along the way helps too.
Absolutely.
Yes. And when you see, residents and their families light up when they ask, can I bring my dog or my cat with me? It's it's a great feeling to say, yes, absolutely, please do. And finding out what is their name. It's really great to see that in the community.
Yeah, that's great. So loneliness is one of the most serious health effects that older adults face. With a lot of the studies, we've seen that loneliness can actually lead to increases in risks of heart attack and stroke, comparable to even smoking or obesity. So it's something that is really important to focus on. And older pet owners are less likely to report loneliness, especially people living alone without a partner. And Tracy, it's very similar to what you mentioned before, where researchers use the phrase catalyst for social interaction. And so, when you take your dog for a walk or there's a cat in the lobby, these animals create openings for conversation and connection with other individuals and make situations that otherwise may not happen. And, this doesn't replace pets don't replace the social world, but they're part of it. And that's why the community piece is so important.
I'm glad you
Absolutely.
I'm glad you brought that up, Dr. Olson. We've recently been talking a lot about the loneliness epidemic and how it's become such an increasingly important conversation, especially within the aging space, and how important connection is with seniors. And we recently explored this in a previous Grace Presents webinar, the Life is Better with Together and the importance of connection and community as we age. I think pets just fit so naturally into this conversation. They don't replace human connection and they don't cure it, but they help create opportunities to connect and form routine and create conversations. I think I've seen that even in my apartment building as I've met other residents and I've bumped into them and they've introduced. There's this one gentleman named Joe and his dog named Rory. I never would have known that his daughter's name is also Jordan, and it's a chance for me to bump into him on his walks every day and have conversation. Tracy, how do you see dogs and cats create opportunity for connection in your community with residents and even associates or families?
Yeah, recently we did what we lovingly call Yappy Hour, and we did it in one of our courtyards, and obviously invited all of our residents that have dogs, and we did pup cups, and we even did an activity a week before that where we made treats for this party. And it was so much fun to see not just the residents that have dogs, but the residents that don't have dogs come and the smiles on their faces. Just watching the dogs, get so excited about licking the whipped cream out of a pup cup or getting one of the treats that another resident that doesn't have a dog, giving that treat off. It was really, really nice to watch.
I love how it extends beyond even dog owners, and even people that don't own a dog participate and benefit from the interaction and the activity just as much as people with dogs do.
Oh, 100%. We even have a resident that lives here. He does not have an animal, But the moment a resident needs to go on vacation or go to a doctor appointment, or maybe they're out at the hospital, he's the first one that volunteers to watch for that animal. So, and if he sees somebody come in and tour, he'll ask them, do you have do you have a dog? Do you have a cat?
Let
Like
me
it
watch
is,
someone your way.
yes, he has found such purpose in that. And it's so refreshing to watch.
That reminds me of myself. I've actually never had a pet, but I love animals so much. And like, I always watch my friends' dogs and cats and everything when they're away. I'm like, I'll do it. I'll come stay at your house. I'll feed your animals, whatever it might be. And I really want to say really quick while we're still on the slide is this picture right here is actually the mother of someone that works at Grace. And she lives in Arizona and she hopped on a plane and she flew to California in the same day that she found this dog. And this is her, I think, honestly, in the airport when she got her new puppy. So we just wanted to share that photo. We love it so much. All the other photos and everything, for the most part, throughout the slides, have been our residents and their pets. We do have one other photo that is of a Grace employee's animal, and we're gonna get to that. But I did just want to share that, like, these photos are, true and everything to what we do here and everything in our pet program.
All right. And so for a lot of older adults, a pet is part of how they define home. And so moving into senior living means leaving a lot of what makes a space feel like theirs. And for many people, that includes their animal. And so being able to have their animal join them and be part of that transition is really important. A lot of people attribute their identity to their pet and being a pet owner, being a person whose dog knows everyone or being the person whose cat greets all the visitors. These things are not trivial. And research shows that when people feel genuinely aligned with their pet, like the relationship fits who they are, it shows up in their life satisfaction scores. And so being needed, having a living, being dependent on you again for food and care and comfort, all of this supports a sense of agency and purpose that's really easy to lose later on in life if you don't have something like this.
I think I can also kind of relate to that. I can't exactly count on one hand how many times I moved within the last 10 years, but I have moved quite a few times. And the one consistent thing throughout all that time was my cat Ellie, and she really helped me feel more uh, adaptable in these new locations, that she was there with me every time.
And tuxedos are great cats.
They are indeed. I might be biased on that though.
And just to say, like, we don't only have like dogs and cats at Grace Communities, but this is a resident with their pet bird. And I love that.
Oh,
She just looks so happy just patting on her bird. It's so cute.
right. We've recently had a visit here with a mother and daughter, and the mother had moved from her house into a 55 plus community, and she had to give up her dog. So when she came in to visit and asked if she could go get a new dog, and I was like, absolutely. I can't wait to see the pictures of, what you're looking for. She just started crying. She was so excited to be able to go get a dog again. So it's just huge for them. You could tell that she has missed that so much.
It's such an important part of life for so many people, and at our communities, we love to connect people with local adoption agencies or pet therapy partners, things like that. So we are always willing to help you connect with any local partners if you're looking for an animal as well.
Oh, that's great. Um, as we're talking about all the benefits of pet ownership, I thought it was important that we just call out the challenges as well. And this is not to discourage pet ownership by any means, but more because naming these things allows us to support people through them. And so a couple things to be aware of, one with age, there comes mobility changes. And so sometimes the more basic tasks like walking your dog outside a couple times a day can become more difficult. And so it's important to have a plan or a community with support that can help with these things if they become more of a challenge. Next, and so just like human care, pets have hospitalization. That's where I work a lot in a veterinary hospital. So a lot of times we see another side of this where people come in and say, well, either I can't care for my pet right now, or sometimes a pet actually comes in because the owner themselves is in the hospital. And so this type of veterinary care, these situations, along with just basic veterinary care, like getting transported to the vet, veterinary cost, and also coordinating visits, those can all be real barriers that you have to think about. Next, we love our pets so much, but unfortunately, we all experience pet loss at times, and this is a genuine grief experience, and it can, trigger depression and risks of that. And so you want to be very conscious of the effects of pet loss, and make sure to support those individuals when they do experience it. Um, and lastly, I have here about falls. It's something we all worry about, especially with our family members that are getting older. I have a personal experience here. I have a family member with mobility issues, and when they go up the stairs in my house, and my cat, who's not here anymore, but just was, zooms up between their legs up the stairs, it definitely makes me pause that it's almost an accident waiting to happen. So if you have a cat like mine, or, a big enthusiastic dog, these are, can create situations where you can actually be at a fall risk. And ultimately, the goal is never to avoid any of these situations, but to be aware of them and build systems that address them and minimize the risk.
And I know you just mentioned having like a big dog that, might jump on you and cause you to fall over if like you have those mobility issues. When I think of a fall risk, I didn't even think of a big dog. My first thought went to a small dog that you might just trip over because they got in the way the same way that your cat's running up the stairs. In my mind, I don't even think like a big dog, but that is absolutely true. A big dog can absolutely jump up and you might lose your balance and fall over for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're not meaning to do it. They're just trying to show love a lot of times,
Yep.
but just good to always be aware
Especially
of.
when you just walk in that door. Hands
Exactly.
full of things, can't control yourself, and then
I don't know if you're familiar with a Wheaten Terrier, but I have a Wheaten Terrier. And yes, I've had so many people ask me about bringing her in, but Miss Kaya likes to do the Wheaten greeting. And so they are known for jumping up to greet you. So hence why I've never brought her into the community. Everybody would love her, and she would certainly love the people here, but everybody's going to get a Wheaten greeting from Miss Kaya.
everyone has to be already sitting to get those greetings.
Yes,
Oh, look, Sophie's
absolutely.
back.
Oh, there she is. Yep.
Here comes Ben's cat. Speaking of, this is my cat Ellie on our slide here. She turned 16 yesterday. She's got her little party hat on. I wanted to share that with you guys.
That
Happy
is the
birthday,
identity.
Ellie.
Yeah.
Grace family member that is in these slides. And then really quick, Dr. Olson, while we're on this topic of veterinary and everything, what is the weirdest pet or animal that you saw in your practice?
Oh, that's a good question. So every once in a while we do interact with local aquariums and zoos, and so we've done CT scans on penguins. We've done MRIs on seal before, and so I think it was a harbor seal. So those are some of the kind of more exotic-esque pets. And then at our hospital in Connecticut, we have a pretty large think avian and exotics department. And so they see a number of different birds. They do some wildlife like geese and stuff too. So we see a whole variety of pets.
Oh, wow. That must be so cool. So different.
Yeah, it's exciting when it happens during that day.
For sure.
Did you always want to be a veterinarian when you were younger? I feel like that is such a common career choice that people always want to get into. Was that something you always wanted to be in?
I'm actually in the minority here. I did not. So both my parents are veterinarians. And so I grew up saying I would never be a veterinarian. And then did a 180 in college and went from computer science to veterinary medicine, and never looked back.
Did you work with either of your parents?
I did. I worked in the hospital growing up, and I enjoyed it. It just science hadn't clicked, and then very quickly did.
It's such a cool story.
Um, all right. And so, I think one of the terms that we're starting to use more commonly in the past couple of years is pet inclusive over pet friendly. And pet friendly really is a policy. And what that means is that pets are permitted, which is a good start. But really, pet inclusive is a practice. It means that, the organization has thought about the person and the pet as a unit and has built a system that is meant to support both. And that can look like multiple things. We think about emergency backup care plans. We think about relationships with local vets and groomers that potentially can be mobile or have assisted transportation. It means helping with walking and feeding pets when residents need that assistance. Um, and I think it also comes into just how the community is designed, making sure that it's meant to welcome animals, that there's areas to walk dogs or for them to relieve themselves, something that really welcomes animals and doesn't just tolerate them. And then lastly, I think a lot of it comes down to the staff and that they understand the bond well enough to support it, but also recognize when it's at risk. And so then you have a system where really supports the goal that no resident ever has to choose between good care or a good community to live in and the animal that they love.
And Tracy, does the image on the slide look familiar to you?
It does. That's one of our residents, and he has two cats. The other one is somewhere under that bed.
Didn't like visitors?
No, but that particular cat sometimes comes out in one of those like cat carriages that they have zipped up. So that's always fun to see. And to piggyback off of something else that you said, it's always fun when our residents get together and they make little dog treats and we have them at the front desk so that when we know ahead of time somebody's coming in to visit and they're looking to bring, an animal with them, especially with a dog or a cat, that we have that available for them. We love to give away a pineapple upside down cake when somebody visits with us, but we also like to give away like some little animal treat too. When we know that it's not just one person moving in, it's really kind of two.
Absolutely. I love that they make the treats as opposed to just like buying some. That's such a nice little personal
Yes.
touch.
Homemade treats just taste better.
Always.
True.
So just taking it full circle, the research is really clear in that the human animal bond contributes in a meaningful way to physical health, to emotional well-being, social connection, and purpose. And older adults with pets often have to navigate a lot of transitions, and they're able to do it with more resilience when they have a pet relationship and when that bond's protected and supported. Um, I do have a personal story I wanted to say too, is when my grandfather, um, for my entire life, he always had a Labrador Retriever with him. The dog would go everywhere that he went. And so when he went into an assisted living facility, it was a situation where he couldn't bring his dog. And so my father brought the dog every single day to see him. And, really not really seeing my father, but seeing his dog is what my grandfather looked forward to every day. That was the highlight. And being a Labrador, of course, he talked to the dog really met every single person living in that facility on the way to my grandfather's room. And so it became that not just my grandfather was looking forward to the visit, but everybody else in the facility or on that hall was as well, just to get that, 15-second interaction with the dog. It really meant a lot to everybody, and the whole community benefited from those visits. And that's really what pet inclusive means, in that you're just really supporting those bonds and that benefit because it's real, and that's what the research supports. Um, so I want to thank everyone for listening to me today, and I appreciate the time to talk about this because it's really great and very important, I believe.
Animals really can change like anyone's mood in just a matter of seconds, and it's so great to see that.
That's true. I think they just bring so much joy and connection, and many people know that just from their personal experience. But we really appreciate you bringing your expertise and scientific knowledge here for us today, Ben. And I'd like to take this chance to turn it over to Tracy.
Great. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much. So I'm Tracy Milton. I'm the sales director here at Inspirations of Mesa. Been in the industry for a while now, and for well over 10 years, I've been able to work at independent communities, assisted living communities, memory care communities, and hospice as well. So when we, talk about this subject, I was like, oh, this excites me. Number one, because of my own dog. I've obviously grew up with dogs, as a child. My kids had dogs and cats and bearded dragons and newts and fish, and you name it, we've probably had it. But I always say with my dog now, Kaya, I don't know what life would be like without her. We have our routine every morning where we give Eskimo kisses for me to say goodbye to her, and she knows where to jump up to get her treat. So, this topic really, is so exciting to me to see. And for us here at the community, we're a really big community. So we have like two different courtyards where we can have our dogs walk through. But we also have a designated dog park with, the everything that you would need out there for the little dogs. And it's so nice to be able to see the dogs and their pet owners and the families sit out there, even though it's hot in Arizona. But yeah.
Thank you, Tracy. We're so excited to hear more about what it's like to have a pet at Inspirations of Mesa.
Yeah. So I think, like I was saying earlier, we are very pet friendly. We welcome what if it's a dog or a cat. We just recently, like I said, did our Yappy Hour, and that was so exciting to watch. Like I was saying earlier, not just the residents that had dogs, but the other residents come out that don't have dogs, and how everybody was excited. And especially the residents that made the homemade treats that don't have, a dog, to be able to watch them interact and give, those treats to the dogs. And then I know coming up, we're working on putting together a Cat's Meow social. So that'll be exciting as well. I don't think we have any birds or fish here yet, but when we do, we'll come up with something for that as well.
All the
And then, like,
tuxedo cats are already dressed up for the event.
yeah, I've heard that. Yes. And then,
You
like
can
I was
borrow
saying
Ellie for
too.
that.
Oh, could I?
Yeah.
Well, that means you
Well,
would have to come visit too, Jordan.
well, I would love to visit Mesa. We can
All
arrange
right.
that.
Perfect. Yeah,
Great.
so we like to do a lot of different social connections here. And then, like I was saying earlier too, that we have two different courtyard areas for our pet lovers to walk their dogs through. And then we have a designated dog park area as well.
And then we did have a question come in about considering using pet therapy organizations to visit your community.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And again, having that hospice background, a lot of your hospice companies have pet therapy. And so we love to connect with them. And one of our first questions will be, do you offer pet therapy? Even every year we do a Western barbecue at the kind of springtime. In the past few years, we've done like a petting zoo. This year we brought in a micro mini cow and a pony, and I loved walking that little mini cow around. So, and it was so much fun watching the residents light up and come out and take their picture with it. So, I think at the end of the day, no matter what animal it is, it just makes people happy.
And that kind of actually goes into another question that we received. Somebody wanted to know if pets can visit or if residents can have an interaction with animals, even if they can't have one full time. So it seems like pets do visit.
Oh, absolutely, they do. One of the things that we were talking about earlier is we do sometimes have a loved one move in. Maybe it's a husband or a wife or a mom or a dad, and the family feels like having the pet here might be a little too much for them on a day-to-day basis. But when they come to visit, they bring, the pet with them so that their loved one can still have that interaction. Ah, And then this last one is it's a personal perspective for me. This is photos of my dad and his dog Piper. And you can see no matter where my dad went, the store, out on a scooter stroll, or just sitting on the couch, Piper was right there by his side. Um, this just reminds me so much of, the bond that is not just between the human and the animal, but the animal and the human it's so strong.
I always like the middle picture there where he's looking up at your dad. Um, yeah, and I think that bi-directional relationship is really well exemplified here.
Absolutely.
And he just hangs out on your dad's lap so well.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. There's so many pictures where you see my dad going like on a road trip, and there's Piper right there on his lap. So,
And being in the community, have you seen like differences in, the kind of transition of people as they're moving in with a pet as opposed to without?
you know what we have in the regards to, like I was saying earlier, the mother-daughter that came in and she had to give up her dog when she moved into that 55 plus community. And the joy she had in her face the moment I was like, absolutely, go get another dog. I want to see photos. What name are we already thinking? So absolutely, we've seen that. Or if they already have a dog, it's interesting. Or even a cat, when they ask you that question, are pets allowed here? And to watch their face light up when you're like, yes. And then to tell them how many cats live here and how many dogs live here. It's so fascinating and fun to watch people light up when they know that they can bring theirs with them.
And I think I remember you having a story about someone that wasn't settled until their animal was settled.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I think it was Mary who, she was a little hesitant about moving in, but when she did, she told us, she shared with us, I was so worried more for my dog to get settled than I was myself. But I knew once she was settled, I felt settled.
That's awesome.
It's really great to hear. I know, Tracy, you mentioned some events like Yappy Hour and things like that. Do you see a difference in engagement for your residents that have pets versus those that do not?
Well, again, going back to the Yappy Hour, is we saw an increase in engagement with both the residents that have pets and the residents that don't have pets. And we just did our Yappy Hour. Now we're working on doing something called the Cats Meow Social. And a lot of cats we know don't necessarily come out of the apartment like they would with the Yappy Hour. So we're looking to do like a photo of the cat and then a photo of the owner, and having all of our residents try to match them up. Like, who do you think this cat belongs to? And having that social interaction. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
That sounds really exciting. Uh, Next, thank you, Tracy. It was so good to hear personal stories at the community, how pets bring so much joy. We would like to next bring in one of our lovely residents into the conversation here. We have a short video from one of our residents at the Landing at Lake Highlands in Dallas. You'll get a chance to meet Amy and Marley here. Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Amy Timberlake, and this is my dog Marley, and we moved from North Carolina to the Landon a year ago. And Marley was born in Texas, so he's back in his home state with the people he loves. Marley brings me so much comfort and joy. And the staff here, the residents here, all enjoy having Marley. He's a character. He loves to walk through the halls, and he thinks everyone is excited to see him, and I will not tell him anything different, but they all seem to love him. Well, we're starting a play group with other dogs, and we meet every other week, and the dogs get together in a room with the moms, and we have toys for them, and they just have a chance to interact with each other, and we get to know our neighbors a lot better, and it's a lot of fun. walk with other dogs when they're available. And Marley, we sit out in the lobby a lot. We sit out there all the time, and you'll see us if you come in, when you come.
I
If
love
anyone is in the Texas, Dallas area and wants to go visit Amy and Marley at the Landon at Lake Highlands, please do so. They're in the lobby a lot.
I really love the
she's
idea of a dog group. You could think of if you were by yourself and you went into that facility and had a dog, it's just such an easy way to meet people. If you're nervous about interacting and or have any type of reservation, but there's a dog group, I think it's so much easier to join that on a Friday night. And then all of a sudden you're meeting so many people that have a common interest with you.
I think that kind of
Absolutely.
piggybacks off your topic earlier, Ben, about not just pet friendly, but pet inclusive at our communities. We want to make an opportunity for that engagement where the pets aren't just tolerated here, they're family at our communities. So we're making an opportunity for that pet inclusive environment.
Someone may go and get a pet just so they can join the dog group.
And Ben, to your point, I mean, dogs and animals in themselves are icebreakers, even without having a group and everything. So it really is just a definite easy way to talk to people, get to know people. I feel like they really bring out
Yes.
the best in everyone. If you're shy, like someone be like, "Oh, what kind of dog is that?" And suddenly you're having a full-blown conversation, even though you never thought you might. So
Yeah. And when you're combating things like loneliness, like what a great way to do that and to, make strides to avoid, somebody going into that situation.
absolutely.
So very true.
Jordan, do you want to drum roll what's up next?
First, I'd like to give a chance for any questions. If we have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A chat below.
Tracy, one came in for
Yes.
you. What kinds of pets are allowed in the communities?
Yeah, great question. So generally what we see are dogs, cats, birds, fish. I'm sure if it was something outside of that, we would certainly find out. But that's generally what we see.
Any reptiles?
Ooh, that would be a great question. I'm not totally
I
sure on that, but I'm the person that says if you don't ask, you don't know. And what's the worst thing you could be told is no. I'll
I'd
go
love to
for
chime in a little
I'll,
bit there. All of our
yeah.
communities do have their own separate pet guidelines and community specific details. If you are interested in any of our communities, feel free to reach out to your local team and see what that guideline and community specific details look like for them. Our team would love to reach out to you and share more details.
And can residents have help caring for a pet?
Absolutely. Most certainly can have help. That's something that we could look at adding to their care plan. But I think first and foremost, especially for my community, having independent living and assisted living, I like the interaction that the residents have. Like I was telling the story earlier about Dennis. And, the moment he sees somebody coming in and we're walking around with them, he'll ask them if they have an animal because he finds such happiness and purpose with helping with that.
Yeah, so if it's not help from an employee, it might be help from a resident.
Exactly.
Alrighty, we have not received any more questions at this time. So Jordan, would you like me to move on to the next slide?
Yes, let's go ahead and do it. Take a drum roll. I would love to take this opportunity to introduce something exciting we have coming up here at Grace. Everything we've talked about today is really near and dear to our heart and something we're excited to share more about. Keep your eye out for more information about our upcoming national pet program we are launching soon. Pets Are Family here. We're so excited to share more about some upcoming events that you can follow along with. Please stay tuned on our socials because here at Grace Communities, we believe that pets are family here too. And with that, I'd love to thank Dr. Ben Olson and Tracy Melton for joining us today. Both of your expertise has been great, and it's been a great conversation. And I'd also like to thank our audience for joining us as well. We know this topic is personal for so many, and pets are truly a part of so many of our families. With that, we will be sending out a follow-up email where you have an opportunity to watch this recording back at your convenience. You'll also see a link there for our previous Grace Presents webinar that we mentioned earlier about life is better here, better together. And we hope you leave with a deeper appreciation for the role pets can play in purpose, joy, connection, and happiness in later life. And then we would also love if you would join us for the upcoming Grace Presents webinar, Beyond the Beautiful Lobby. In this Grace Presents webinar, we'll take a deeper look at what really matters when choosing a senior living community and the key factors families should be focusing on when making this decision process.
I'll leave this up on the screen for just a moment so that anyone that wishes to register can scan that QR code.
And then we would love for you to follow along with each of us at Cove Animal Health, Grace Management, and Inspirations of Mesa. You can see our URLs at the bottom, or else you can scan that QR code there as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Great. Thank you
Thank
for having
you.
me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.